are these monies used? How are the funds used? I think that is extremely important. And to that extent, Mr. Speaker, I want to look at certain areas which, in my mind, we have a major crisis in this country, but which we don't seem to realize, or we do realize, but we actually ignore. Mr. Speaker, let me start with the education. The education has been well funded now. If you look at university education, there's an increase in the budget from 118 billion to 127 billion. That is good, Mr. Speaker. But in the same university education, we have a huge problem of funding of student funding. Mr. Speaker, as of now, many students do not even want to be admitted in the courses that they would like to take and are going to courses that they think they can afford. And yet we have more funds. The basic issue here has been the management and the implementation of the new funding system. In itself, in principle, it is good. It brings three main areas: that all students need to be funded according to their need. It also brings into the area that you need to fund them according to the courses they take, so that universities are funded according to the students they have, the courses that they are offering, not just because they are favored. But that in itself, Mr. Speaker, has literally failed. Even last year, the capitations didn't go, the students that were getting money did not get, and yet we are giving. Even if you look at the universities, the management of the universities, staff are not being paid, councils seem not to be working, there are frequent problems between councils and vice chancellors. So even if we put money there, Mr. Speaker, what are we going to do? What are we going to benefit? So again, how we implement is an important issue. Mr. Speaker, in primary sector, again, we have got a good increase from 25 billion to 29 billion. But again, here is where we have the problem. Mr. Speaker, JSS is a problem. Those kids that are in the JSS program, in my view, they're being sacrificed as we implement this program. We moved so fast without actually proper planning. You find that in some schools, you have 2 teachers. Even if you have only 40 students, even if it's one class, and in the JSS, they have 9 areas. So that even if you have one class, you will at least need 4 teachers, because each teacher can only teach 4 areas. So what will happen in schools where there are only 2 teachers in JSS? Mr. Speaker, this JSS also, it is linked with competence-based curriculum. Up to now, in grade 8, I'm sure the curriculum is not well stated out. There's no proper curriculum that has been put out there. I've talked to teachers, they are actually Googling what is within the ministry. It has not come out properly. So even if you have money there, how are we going to benefit? We are not even sure whether at JSS we should have labs or we should have workshops. Even that is not clear. So even when we have funds from CDF, we cannot. So we have money in these areas, but the way we are implementing it, the competence with which we are implementing is actually wanting. So I feel we lose that. Let me look at also the area of health. Again, in the Department of Medical Services, there's good money, 102 billion, which is actually funding to a large extent national referral hospitals, and also looking specifically at cancer, which is a good thing we have done. We have put money for cancer. To begin with, we are looking at the access to high-level cancer treatment, and we also put money for the Cancer Institute, which should look at the whole program in cancer, from prevention to early detection and easy treatment, not just the expensive high level. But again, if we don't manage that properly, how will it work? In the public health and standards, we have a budget of 4 billion, which we have put there. Good thing is that this is looking at standards. The problem in health is basically standards. How can we maintain standards if standards are policy are at the national level while implementation is at the county? And again, that of human resource. We've just had a strike of doctors, which in my view has not been resolved because the return to work formula was all about promises. We don't know whether those promises are actually going to be done. The clinical officers are still on strike. In the same area of health, we have actually put money for primary health care fund, and we have put money for emergency and critical care fund. We have tried as a committee to do that, but our concern is that all this is to support the main vehicle of universal health care, which is social health insurance. Now, social health insurance has a problem because the main area we are going to depend on is the informal sector. That's a big sector, and the indigents. Have we actually clearly defined how we are going to pick the indigents, or how we are going to assess families in the informal sector? Somebody has got 20 matatus, another one has got 1 matatu. They are all in matatu industry. Who is going to pay what? And I hear us talking very eloquently that it's going to work. I'm not sure because we have not seen that. So again, how we implement this is extremely important. Again, the link between the standards and the policy at the national level and the implementation at the county. We always have a problem with this. The harmonization is not there. The intergovernmental relations mechanisms don't seem to be working, so that you don't get a smooth harmony between the policies, standards, and implementations. And this is again an issue of devolution. We have a whole State Department for devolution, where now we have put 4 billion. I'm asking myself, if you have the Intergovernmental Relations Technical Secretariat, we have the Council of Governors, you have the summit, what does this State Department for devolution do? I'm not clear what it does. So, Mr. Speaker, my concern, we look at the budget, we'll go through the finance, raise the funds, but when we give it out, are we technically able to use the funds? I'm very concerned about that. So in other areas, look at the issue of electricity. It's good we are saying each constituency is going to get 50 million for connectivity. Connectivity is one thing. What about the supply of electricity itself? How regular is our supply? How many times do we get blackouts, even national ones? Businessmen actually are losing a lot of money because of power. When power with a blackout, we don't look at people in industry. They have to now power their businesses through generator. Very expensive, or lose out. People in the hotel industry. So even if we do that and put money for electrical connectivity, shall we be able to actually manage it properly? So that is an issue. Roads, I'm happy that CARA will continue to be there and the money will be put there. But I think we should start by completing the roads that were actually started but stalled. Somebody has talked of the Mau roads, but they're everywhere. The low volume sealed roads were not done. So, Mr. Speaker, we do the budget, but the people who are going to use the money, are they competently using the money? The issue of equity, you actually mentioned yourself, Honorable Bara mentioned, in the 11th Parliament, a budget committee was actually disbanded because they had actually given themselves, favored their constituencies. We seem now to think that it is okay if you're in the committee, you can favor yourself. That in terms of equity and integrity.
The Honorable Rahab Mukami. Don't worry, gentlemen. Lady members have other national duties outside of the House.
You are right, Honorable Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I rise to support Budget and Appropriation Committee. I happen to be a member of that committee, and I really want to thank the member colleagues of the National Assembly for the support they've really given us, considering we really burned oil at night working on this budget. Honorable Speaker, we really tried to balance and to cut across all the sectors. And to start with, there is a coffee sherry. You know, I come from the area where there is coffee. And you know, our farmers were really crying, and we've allocated some money, about 4.7 billion, for our coffee. The school feeding program, that one I had a passion because I happened to go to Baringo County for public participation. And when we talked to the members of parliament and the community, everybody was crying that the children are not able to go to school because majority of the children come from vulnerable families and they are not able to get food. The highest cut went to the Ministry of Education, considering we have so many sagas in that ministry. Like now we want to promote our teachers. There are teachers who have worked for over 10 years. They've never been promoted. There is also JSS. We allocated money to pay all those 46,000 teachers so that they can now continue teaching our children. We allocated money for our universities and higher education, TVET and TTI. When we come to energy, REREC, I'm sure members of parliament from the 290 constituencies, you are very lucky because each and every constituency will get 50 million for the last mile, because we want to make sure that everybody has electricity, and we also want to make sure that our markets will have electricity because of our mama bogas and the boda bodas when they are doing their business, because we want to build our economy. Equalization fund. One member of parliament really complained, and I really wanted to tell them that we've considered that, and we've allocated about 12 billion for equalization fund. The other thing is about trade. You know that is one of our agendas as Kenya Kwanza. We've allocated some money, 4.6 billion for agro industries, and HUB 1.6 billion. Honorable Speaker, we have coffee, we have cotton, and we have milk. In the agriculture sector, we've considered all those people. The other thing is about blue economy. I remember Milio Diabo had a passion, and I'm sure, Honorable Speaker, you come from those areas where you do fishing. We've also allocated some money. We have many Kenyans who are crying because of the pending bills. And we've already allocated 2 billion to pay those pending bills. Because you know, Honorable Speaker, when the money is not circulating, that is why even our dollar was going higher. So we've allocated some money so that we can make sure that our people have gone back to their businesses. Honorable Speaker, I wanted to talk about the division of revenue because of the county government. It was not easy for the committee, those who went to present us, to do representation from our committee. And that is where we decided now to allocate that 400 billion, because we are really supporting the county government, and we want to make sure that our health sector, like in Nyeri County, in our hospital, we don't have MRI, we don't have medicine. So majority of the people are really suffering, and they had to come to Nairobi to look for medical. Police service and security. You know, we have our police who are doing operations, maybe in Baringo, fighting with bandits. And we had a concern because the money which is being allocated is going to the National Police Service. At least we want to tell the IG to make sure that he is distributing the money to the APs, to the GSU, so that our policemen are able now to get their allowances when they work in those hardship areas. KTDA and fertilizer subsidy, also that one we considered because we want our farmers, you know, it's raining. We want to make sure now our farmers have gone back to their shamba so that they can plant Kera and other roads, Kula, Honorable Speaker, we have so many roads which have really stored. Like the one another member has mentioned, Mau Mau, and many others in this country. We want to give that a priority so that now at least we can finish those roads before now we start other new projects. Honorable Speaker, I am a member of Budget Committee, and I really want to appreciate my colleagues in Budget Committee. It was not easy for us because we were doing supplementary. We were also now doing this main budget, and I support. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Chair, for the opportunity to contribute. I think from the onset, I want to appreciate the members, the Chair, and the members of the Budget and Appropriations Committee for the many sleepless nights that we put in perusing through voluminous documents just to ensure that we meet the deadline and be able to submit the report to the floor of this House. Honorable Speaker, I want also to appreciate the members who have spoken and raised very critical questions in relation to the budget of financial year 24-25, because this will actually help to enhance oversight and accountability, including you, Chair. And having said that, Honorable Speaker, the focus, as I had mentioned earlier, the focus of this year's 2024-25 budget is actually to ensure that we're able to shrink expenditure, and that once we are done with this debate on the budget, is to shift our focus to revenue-raising measures. Honorable Speaker, also is sad that we are processing this budget at a time when the cost of living is still very high, the cost of borrowing remains elevated, the tax burden on the Kenyans is still quite high. The number of Kenyans who are defaulting on loans, non-performing loans, is on the increase. So we really need to see how best this budget is implemented, this budget is managed, so that we are able to reduce the burden on the people. Honorable Speaker, when we were looking at these submissions from chairpersons of departmental committees, we also statement, because that's what sets the direction on how we do the budgets. We're supposed to anchor our estimates on that direction. But you'll find they are budgeted for completely different things and items or projects. When the agenda of the Kenya Kwanza government is on TVETs, and then I see a reduction on the allocation to TVETs, then you know that we have some misplaced priorities. So, Honorable Speaker, I think those are some of the issues we need to take note of. Secondly, we also need to, and I want to encourage the county governments. We've just approved the mediated version of the Division of Revenue. If you look at the average percentage of absorption of development funds, it is at 60%. 40% of the development revenue remains unabsorbed. So I want to encourage county governments going forward that they need to prioritize development funding, to make sure they start by applying development funds and try to absorb as much as they can and take the percentage to closer to 100%. Because it is only through investing that we can achieve growth. We must create employment opportunities for the young people in this country. How are we going to create employment opportunity if there is no growth, there is no investment? Most of the time, money has not been absorbed, delayed exchequer issues, delayed disbursement. And Honorable Speaker, while speaking of the same, some MDAs also, we noted, are too over-ambitious. Because how do you explain a situation where an MDA is pursuing 4 or 5 major projects. And each of the projects is worth 2 billion, 1 billion, maybe 900 million. Yet when you look at the average allocations consecutive for the last 4 or 5 years, the allocation to a project, each of those projects, 150 million, 200 million, 40 million. Where is the value for money? How then can you guarantee that such an MDO or institution can be able to complete any single of those 4 or 5 projects? So we also advised and made our recommendations at the Budget Committee that there is need for a department or an agency to just collapse this allocation together, pursue one project to completion, so that we guaranteed of growth, we guaranteed of employment creation, and all the other benefits that will arise and multiplier effect that will create other opportunities for the people of Kenya. Honorable Speaker, another area we need to look at as we continue to oversight. You know, today we basically saying these are the figures. We are projected to collect this. We are projected to distribute this. We don't have that money. So for us to ensure that we reduce the budget deficit so that we minimize the amount that we are going to borrow as a country, we must also focus, as we do oversight, on wasteful expenditure. When you look at some of the MDS again, there are so many overlaps. There are so many redundancies. We have sectors where you find, like in water, so many MDAs. We can cut down on so many expenditures and be able to save the money, apply it on other more needy areas, and therefore reduce how much we're going to borrow as a country. So, Honorable Speaker, I did not want to get into the details of, I know my colleagues have spoken to so many of these aspects on energy, that every constituency now is going to get 50 million. And that is guaranteeing equity. That is a good thing. Some of my areas in our constituencies, they have never seen power. I go to some areas in Teso South, and they ask me, Mheshimiwa, are we also in Kenya, or we are in Uganda? And I told them, relax, we are going to make sure you get power. And today I'm very happy that at least every constituency, indiscriminately across this country, we are going to have 50 million for power so that we can be able to take power to the people. Honorable Speaker, also I want to comment on higher education. The new model needs to be reviewed. Because I speak to my constituents, the students in my constituency, they're coming to me for bursary. They have to relook at how this money is being awarded and how, again speaking of equity, how well is it being distributed to ensure that all these students from all regions in this country are getting this money. But I want to report that we have made provisions. Monies have been allocated towards higher education, tuition for university students, but that model needs to be reviewed so that this money gets to the needy, gets to all of them across the country. Honorable Speaker, I also want to just add that in all other sectors, and the members have spoken to those issues, be it agriculture, be it energy, be it information, be it water,